Welcome to Looking at Legal Stuff. Today we have 2 hearings for civil infraction tickets with women who think the police officers have been really mean to them. Let's watch.
Good morning. Looks like we have 2 matters here. Ms. Jonas.
Yes.
These are citations that were issued on April 21st of this year on US 131 in Gunplay Township. One is for an expired plate, and the other is for refusal of a roadside PBT. You're here on these citations to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to a citation, or 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest the citation, in other words, to fight a ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
Number 2.
All right. And what is it you'd like to tell me?
Well, I feel like I had a I don't believe the officers respected or took into account that I had a device on my leg. I couldn't walk very well. And I went through all of the requests for sobriety tests, and it was very clear that I passed these sobriety tests, and the officer kept insisting that I hadn't. And I just felt that I was being treated somewhat unfairly, and the officer could have chose just to give me a warning. He chose to give me the ticket.
A warning for what, ma'am?
Well, I know for the expired plates.
Well, your plates are over 6 months expired at this point.
I've been unemployed.
So to stop.
Right.
You think that's a warning?
I appreciate that.
Okay.
I've been unemployed since December. I'm currently on unemployment, getting basically $800 a month. I left someone's house because I was being groped. So it wasn't like I wanted to leave. I admitted that I had an alcoholic beverage, and it just turned into an ordeal where I was being caught on the side of the road in the evenings, which was dangerous, over expired plates, having to go through the sobriety, and I thought I was just being treated pretty roughly in regards to the circumstances. I was
well,
not.
That's why I'm trying to just get to the bottom of it, man, where you think you should have just got a warning. A warning for what? For expired plates?
Yes, sir.
Well, ma'am, let me tell you, the grace period on that is about 30 days.
Right.
Once you get to half a year where you're driving around where you haven't renewed your plates, where the rest of us have to renew our plates, I'm not sure what good a warning would have done.
I've been fighting homelessness. The plates are $200. $200 I didn't have, and that's just the bottom line. I didn't get I've been trying to get unemployment. It took 4 months.
Okay, but those are all choices you made, though.
I understand, Your Honor. I understand, Your Honor.
So the officer is supposed to say, because you don't have any money, you don't have to get the plates like the rest of us. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out where this fell apart, that you think that they are doing something they shouldn't have done. So you get pulled over. They have no idea who you are, right? That they just know you have an expired plate. And you wouldn't have a ticket for PBT if you'd blown into the PBT. I mean, put it this way, you admitted that you were driving and then you had been drinking, right? So you don't think it's proper for them to go through to make sure that you're not someone who's drinking and driving?
There was no cause besides, I was not driving erratically. I was driving the speed limit. I was 2 miles from my home. I left because I was in a dangerous situation. I later have.
Well, let me tell you, ma'am, once they walk up to the side of your car for whatever reason, and then think that they detect the presence of alcohol, they're going to go through this whole song and dance. That's going to happen to everybody. That's not something you were targeted for or singled out for.
Well, I passed all the sobriety tests. I did everything he asked for. I was cognizant. I wasn't driving erratically.
The problem is you have a ticket because you didn't do everything you asked for, right? They asked you to submit a PBT and you said no.
Because there was no cause.
Have a ticket.
Right. There was no cause for it. Alcohol is not illegal to a certain limit. I was not impaired. I
All
passed
right,
the
well,
sobriety test.
the bottom line is, ma'am, you've admitted these citations, so there's nothing really for me to decide. I'm just trying to help you understand that,
I understand.
this is the way everyone would be treated under these circumstances. But we're all set for what we need to do in court. You just need to make arrangements to pay those fines and costs with the district court.
Right. And now I have no more money to even get tabs. So now I have it's just compounding a bad situation. Thank you, officer. I appreciated that. And the bottom line is nobody should answer officers' questions ever. That's the lesson. Ever. Thank you.
All right, man. I'm sorry you feel that way. Trust me,
true.
it would have gone
It's
worse
true.
than getting 2 citations.
I should have
if
just
you
never
had
offered
not answered
anything,
any of
and
the
he would have
questions.
never had cause to pull me out of the car and do a sobriety test, because I was not driving erratically, I was not speeding, and there was no cause.
Ma'am,
I will never admit anything to another police officer for the rest of my life, ever.
All right. I think
Thank
that
you.
choice will go more poorly for you, you'll find, but I mean,
No,
that's a
it
lesson
won't
that
go
maybe you
poorly.
have to.
This went poorly, but I appreciate your honor.
All right, we're all set then. Thank you. All right.
Hello.
This is a citation. It was issued on July 12th of this year on Blue Star Highway. They're in Township of Saugatuck for disobeying traffic control device. Ma'am, you're here on this citation to do one of 3 things. First is you could admit responsibility to the citation, or 2, admit responsibility, but you'd like to provide some sort of explanation to the court as to how or why this happened. Or 3, you wish to contest this citation, in other words, fight the ticket at what we call informal hearing. What were you looking to do?
I wanted a chance to explain the circumstances of the violation.
Okay, what is it you wish to tell me?
And I do acknowledge the closed traffic sign, but did not intentionally break the law. While visiting the area to meet a friend, the signage on the road was very confusing. Under the road closed sign, it listed the businesses that were open where I was headed. The lane was open and clear, so I moved forward to my destination. When I saw the sheriff's car on the side street, I pulled behind him to ask him direction. He approached my vehicle and demanded identification twice. I have a hearing deficit and did not understand him, thus became very flustered. When I tried to speak, he just repeatedly said, "We're beyond that." After taking my license, he returned much later with the citation. I attempted to speak again, and he repeated, "We're beyond that, we're beyond that." The intentional judgment rudeness directed to me from this officer, even though I was cooperative with a quiet demeanor, has caused me extreme emotional and mental distress. He never addressed me, asked me why I was there, or stated his intention. Now, his handling of the situation was very disturbing and stressful to me.
Okay, so ma'am, one thing I want you to understand is separation of powers issue. I'm judicial branch, so I am not this officer's boss or someone who any sort of complaint about him would register with me. I have a very different job. He writes citations and then I decide whether or not I think you're responsible on the citation.
Okay.
So just so you're clear that essentially, I understand you wish to sort of, elaborate on the circumstances of this, but if you think that that's because it would somehow, I have no effect or control on this officer, other than I would decide whether or not his citations, whether or not you would be responsible or not responsible on them. I just want you to be clear on that.
Okay, I understand. Like I said, my destination was on that road, and the signage.
What was your destination, ma'am?
It was a boutique that I was meeting a friend at. And it said under the road closed sign that it was open. And that's why I moved very slowly forward. There was nobody on the road. The road was clear. And the officer was on a side road. So when I saw his vehicle and I didn't immediately see my destination, I pulled behind him to ask direction.
Okay, but essentially, it sounded like you were admitting responsibility to the citation. You'd just like to explain how or why this happened.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like you're contesting the citation.
I guess I don't understand. I did.
So ma'am, there is a road closed sign that you are allowed to go around to go to particular businesses. But if you proceed further down Blue Star, there is no more businesses. And if you go past the next sign, then you would be pulled over and you wouldn't, there's not really any sort of legal excuse for being past that sign.
Okay.
So the businesses are open.
Yes.
But approaching from the east or west or north or south after a certain signage, there are no more options for you to be doing anything other than trying to approach the traffic circle. There's no more businesses or residences left.
Okay.
So it's about where you passed up the sign.
Okay, I understand. I was not aware of that because I'm not from the area.
Yeah.
I was
so the traffic circle's open now, but for quite some time there was, tickets sort of freely coming in. Other people making this mistake, except for locals, but I can tell you're not a local because it said, I think you were from Belding.
Yes.
But essentially that it's closed to through traffic except for particular businesses. And then once you pass up those businesses, if you pass the next sign, there is no more sort of exception. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes, I understand.
Now I can explain things to you. Lots of times when people come here and they're, concerned about getting a citation, really what they're concerned about is getting points on their license. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is that your concern?
Yes, that is a concern.
So here's what I can tell you about points. I don't give you points. The deputy doesn't give you points. Points don't come from us. They come from the Secretary of State. Court and Secretary of State, two different animals, right? So you will get points for this because it's a moving violation, and I can't stop them from giving you points. But here's what I can tell you about points. One is they die a natural death every 2 years. They just sort of go away. So you can always outweight them. But perhaps more to the point, there is a way for you to get rid of your own points. I just can't do it for you. All I can do is explain to you how to do it for yourself. Are you interested in knowing about that?
Yes.
All right. So on the Secretary of State's website, so you go to the Secretary of State of Michigan's website, they have something called the Basic Driver Improvement Course. Okay. It's really just a safe driving quiz that you take online. I can't imagine it's very hard, but it does take up your time. Here are the 3 rules for this, man. You can't be a CDL driver. You're not driving the big rigs, right?
Right. Nope.
You can't be carrying more than 2 points on your license already. You would know that better than I would, but it doesn't sound like you're someone who gets tickets all the time. And 3, you can't have taken this course to get rid of points before in the past. They only let you use this trick once every however many years. But provided you meet those 3 rules, if you take that basic driver improvement course online, the carrot they give you for doing that is they'll erase the points from any one moving violation. So you have the power to make this 0 points, but I can't just tell them not to give you points. All I can do is explain to you how to do it yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So we're all set for here what we need to do on this citation, other than you need to pay that $110 fines and costs. And then whether or not you choose to pursue getting rid of the points, that's a personal decision for you to make, okay?
All right.
All right. Well, then we're all set here. I'm going to go ahead and release parties. Thank you.